Hello, welcome to No Frills ASMR. I'm Linda. I said that wrong. It's kind of weird, but anyway. I realized tonight is daylight saving time, and that means, because it is spring right now, that you go forward 1 hour. And an easy way to remember which direction the clocks turn is it's spring forward, fall back. Spring forward, fall back. Spring forward, fall back. So there is currently a gigantic thunderstorm. Hopefully, remember that one time, if you guys watched my videos a lot, there was a time where there was a giant clap of thunder. And it scared the heck out of me. I was trying to remember which video that is, but I have no idea. So if anybody knows, remind me, because maybe I'll try to clip it and make a short out of it. So anyway, I have this clock here, this little clock. It's kind of dusty. I was trying to dust it off a little bit. Oh, there's thunder. Sorry. We'll have to put up with it because this is a time-sensitive video. All right, so when you do it it's basically the middle of the night, but it's Sunday morning at 2 a.m. You know what's funny about this? That's straight up. So this is not midnight. This is midnight. Isn't that kind of weird? You'd feel like this ball would be there. All right, so at 2 a.m., you have to get up out of bed and go around all the clocks in your house. Not really. You can do it whenever, and then move them forward 1 hour. So that it is then, why is this off? This is an old clock. Okay, so then it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So if you're like a person who goes to church on Sunday morning, they always joke and remind you, don't forget daylight saving. So anyway, that is what's happening Sunday morning as you spring your clock forward. In the United States, they always spring forward on the second Sunday in March, and they fall back on the first Sunday in November. Standard time is in the winter time. So we're moving into what is called daylight savings time. So when we move the clocks forward in spring, we leave standard time and enter daylight savings time until November. And then the clocks fall back and we return to standard time. So if you are a person who's like, I hate changing the clocks. Well, there are a lot of people like that. But sometimes there's debate over whether they want to keep it permanent standard time or permanent daylight savings time. So which do you like better, having a little more sun in the early part of the day, which is standard, or having a little more sun in the latter part of the day, which is daylight savings time? I kind of like the daylight savings time. I can't wait to have another hour of sunlight. I'm kind of excited, to be honest. Now, there are 2 states in the U.S. that do not observe daylight saving time, and that is Hawaii. They stay on standard all year round, and then most of Arizona stays on standard time year round. Although the Navajo Nation, which is inside of Arizona, does observe daylight saving time. So that's kind of interesting. And the Navajo Nation's big. If you're not, I should have got my map. I could have shown you. My uncle and I used to go there sometimes. But yeah, it's big. So they used to always say that, at least what I was taught, was that daylight savings time was invented for the farmers. But apparently farmers actually are opposed to it in a lot of cases, because the crops and the animals follow the sun, not the clock. So changing the clock sometimes made farm schedules more difficult. I think the other thing people say is that the idea behind daylight savings time came from Benjamin Franklin. In 1784, he wrote an essay, and he suggested that people in Paris could save on candles if they woke up earlier and used morning sunlight. But, he always wrote kind of like jokes. So he was sort of joking around and didn't really propose changing the clocks. But that idea, that essay he wrote, inspired others. There was a guy named William Willett, and he was a British insect collector, like bugs. And he enjoyed collecting insects in the early morning and thought people were sleeping through too much daylight. So in 1907, he proposed moving the clocks forward. So that was like one of the first proposals of doing that. But it was really adopted during World War One. World War One. I'm trying to think. World War Two. No, it was World War One. Because during part of the war, the entire country stayed on daylight saving time all year, and they called it wartime. So there was this thing that happened that is known as I think it's known as like time chaos. And I remember hearing about this when I was a kid. But in 1966, there was a bus route that went from Steubenville, Ohio to Moundsville, West Virginia, which I think came up in the Mothman video I made about Mothman, didn't it? Anyway, and on that bus ride, which isn't like super long, the time changed 7 times. 7 times. Some counties had daylight savings, some didn't. So it kept changing. And this was kind of happening around the country, and it would mess up like train schedules and bus schedules and airlines and TV programming, because they'd like put out the TV guide, and you'd have to look and say, well, we're not in standard time, we're in savings time, whatever. So after that, the federal government enacted the time. Hold on, let me think. It's called the Uniform Time Act. The Uniform Time Act. Yeah, that's right. And so that created a law, which is kind of interesting because I told you, Hawaii and Arizona don't do daylight savings time. Well, the law, the Uniform Time Act, makes it so that you can either do just standard time, or you can do standard to daylight savings. But what you can't do is just daylight savings time. So you can do the winter time or the switch, but you can't do the spring summer time. Does that make sense? I think I'm understanding that correctly when I read about it. So that's a little bit of a debate because, like I said, a lot of people, what they really like is the daylight savings time. The United States did experiment with year-round daylight savings time in 1974 during the oil crisis. And by the way, I have memories of that oil crisis and going to the gas station, and there were lines to go to the gas pump that were like 50 cars deep. It's true. It was kind of crazy. But anyway, the idea was to save energy. They used to have on all the light switches, it would say like, oh my gosh, I forget. You'd had a sticker and it had a bird. What did they say? Anyway, they'd always remind you to turn the lights off. It was like very energy conscious during that time. And at school, like when we'd be anything with downtime, the teachers would turn all the lights off because they were told to like try to keep the lights off as much as possible. But anyway, that was all to save energy. So in the winter, when the sun rose very late in many places, sometimes after, like 8 a.m., then many parents didn't like their children going to school, their children going to school in the dark. So the experiment ended. Now, I've told you guys that where I grew up, there was a serial killer, a child serial killer. And I remember, and this still happens now, like if you live anywhere on the East Coast, you get up in the dark a lot of times. But it went on for a long time in the 70s, and it was like everything happened at once, that they got rid of the daylight savings time and there was a murderer and the kids all had to walk to school. It was scary times. Scary. Anyway, but I think a lot of sleep researchers, I'm trying to remember. I guess the sleep researchers like the permanent standard time. They would rather it start to get dark early so you get tired earlier. Does that sound right? I think that's right. I'm like thinking about that more. So in the debate, yeah, I think that's it. But like a lot of retail and travel, they want it to stay light longer so that people go out to eat more and they stay out longer. Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah. So like travel, restaurants, shops. You know how sometimes in the winter you go out at 7 p.m., it's pitch black for hours. You feel like you're going out to like the store and you feel like it's the middle of the night. It's weird. So yeah, I can see why they would want it to stay light longer. But anyway, all right. So 2 a.m. Sunday morning, you got to move your clock up an hour. But really, don't we all have iPhones or whatever now and they just do it automatically? But if you have an old clock, or sometimes if you have an older car, you have to reset it for an hour. So suddenly your night will be brighter. It's extra bad, like I told you, my son lives in Boston. It's dark there so early. It's like crazy early how dark it gets. He can't wait to have a little more brightness. I do remember hearing that when there's a time change, people have heart attacks and stuff more. I'm not really sure why. I don't know. I guess because they have to get up for work and it changes the time. I don't know. I didn't look into that. But I have heard there can be like more car accidents because people have fatigue because they didn't get as much sleep because they've missed an hour of sleep. So basically you get one less hour of sleep. I don't know. Like, you think you could get yourself to bed a little earlier or something, but I don't know. Anyway, well, so there you go. That's a little quick daylight savings time. So which do you guys like better? I think, like I said, I think for me, I would pick daylight saving time all year round. By the way, it is daylight saving time, not savings with an S. If you want to be a little stickler about it. And once you know that, then it's going to torture you because everybody says it wrong and you'll be like, ah. But yeah, I think I would pick having more sun at night than in the morning, because in the morning, like, whatever. Although I just like long days. I can't wait for longer days. But they're getting longer every day, and I can feel my mood switching already. Anyway, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I will talk to you soon. Let's go back to 2 a.m. so we're prepared for tonight.